I'm going to show you exactly what happened in my very first deal under the new corporate housing model. This includes a massive critical failure that went sideways in week 2, one that almost made me second-guess this entire strategy and pack the whole thing in. Look, when your blueprint collides with the chaotic forces of reality, your plans get completely disrupted. This is why I say, I launched my first corporate rental, then this blew up. This is an unvarnished corporate housing case study detailing the real-world results. There are no filters and there's no sugarcoating. Forget the polished highlight reels you see online. You need to study genuine midterm rental horror stories that 2026 is bringing to unprepared hosts who never bothered to hedge their downside. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on my exact first deal under the new model. I want to show you what happens when the operational reality doesn't match your initial spreadsheet expectations. We're looking at the raw, unvarnished data from the front lines. If you ignore operational vulnerabilities, a single unforeseen crisis will completely wipe out your monthly cash flow. You stand to lose high-value business relationships because you lack a real plan for when something goes wrong. I'm taking you week by week through the first corporate payout, the surprise structural failure, and exactly how I responded to save the contract. Let's look at the absolute timeline. Let's look at the launch velocity. Exactly 4 days after our properties were uploaded into the institutional insurance relocation clearinghouses, the system worked precisely as engineered. We received an automated notification from a major corporate relocation engine. A high-net-worth family had been displaced by a localized electrical fire. Their insurance carrier needed to place them in a fully turnkey premium asset for a mandatory 90-day duration. The corporate entity didn't negotiate. They didn't ask for a discount. They didn't ask a single retail consumer question. They sent over a signed business-to-business master agreement within 2 hours flat at our full premium corporate rate of $3,500 per property per month. That 2-hour turnaround wasn't luck. It happened because my vendor profile inside the clearinghouse was already fully verified before the notification ever came through. Insurance carriers move at the speed of trust, and that trust has to be built before the emergency call, not during it. 3 days later, the family checked in. Look at the immediate shift here. My phone didn't buzz once. There were no messages asking how to log into Netflix. There were no complaints about pillows, and there was no hospitality friction. On Friday morning, the automated payment cleared into my business account. For the first 7 days, I completely convinced myself that I'd built the ultimate flawless wealth vehicle. I thought I had this whole thing figured out. Week 1 was an absolute victory that validated our entire strategy. But nothing stays smooth forever in a business with moving parts. Right when I was celebrating, a massive operational crisis slammed into my portfolio. A single phone call on a Tuesday night completely threatened to destroy our corporate vendor reputation. This brings us straight into the week 2 ambush. This brings us to week 2, the moment our blueprint collided violently with real-world chaos. At 9:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, my phone rings. Now, remember, under our business-to-business agreement, the occupants don't contact me directly. The corporate procurement manager does. The manager informed me that the main sewer line at property number 2 had suffered a complete structural collapse beneath the foundation. The home was entirely uninhabitable. Raw sewage was backing up into the lower-level utility drains. This was an absolute worst-case scenario. This family had already lost their home to a fire earlier that year. Now they were staring down a second displacement in the middle of the night. And the corporate procurement manager made it's clear, fix this fast or lose the account entirely. If this had occurred under the old Airbnb model, the guests would have left a malicious 1-star review. The platform would have suspended my listing instantly. I would have been forced to pay thousands in immediate consumer refunds while absorbing an unplanned vacancy. But under the corporate model, the stakes were even higher. If I failed to resolve this crisis instantly, the insurance clearinghouse would strip me of my approved vendor credentials. They'd blacklist my business from receiving future institutional placements. I was staring down a genuine threat to the enterprise, and I had to fix it fast. The situation was chaos, but a crisis is nothing more than a data point, provided you have a clear framework for how to respond to it under pressure. Before I reveal the counterintuitive legal clause that let me completely neutralize this disaster without losing a single dollar of rent, you need to understand how I actually think through a crisis like this. When you get hit with an operational crisis, Amateurs freeze up or panic. Real operators immediately look at the actual facts of the situation instead of guessing at worst-case outcomes. You look at the exact obstacle standing between you and your goal. Then you run a fast, focused move to regain control of the system. The problem itself rarely kills a business. It's the speed and quality of your response that determines what happens next. You have to look at your business model during a storm and ask yourself a real question. Did I build a fragile system that only works in perfect conditions? Or did I build something that can absorb a serious disruption and keep moving? To survive a facility failure of this scale, you have to look directly at the contractual leverage built into your corporate agreement. This brings us to the exact mechanism I used to save the contract. This is where the real power of the business-to-business master corporate housing agreement changes everything. Instead of panicking like an amateur host, I immediately executed Section 92 of our corporate agreement, the policyholder allocation displacement rider. Here's the counterintuitive twist that completely insulates your downside. Because the tenant is backed by a multi-billion-dollar insurance carrier, their corporate policy includes an automatic secondary emergency budget designed specifically to handle property displacement events. I didn't have to argue or pay for a guest relocation. The insurance company independently funded a temporary luxury hotel suite for the family for 5 days, while my commercial plumbing team excavated the foundation. Because the corporate lease remained fully active, my monthly rental distributions from the carrier continued to accrue, uninterrupted. I deployed an emergency cash reserve of $4,500 to completely replace the main sewer line within 96 hours flat. Because our response was instant, the corporate procurement manager was genuinely impressed by our speed. They officially designated our portfolio as their preferred asset tier for the entire metropolitan district. We turned a potential disaster into a permanent high-leverage business relationship. That single 96-hour turnaround did more for my business than any marketing campaign could have. Word travels fast inside these institutional networks, and a vendor who performs under pressure gets first call on the next emergency placement. That rider saved our vendor standing and preserved our momentum. But before you assume this model solves every expense issue, you need to see the final monthly balance sheet after factoring in that emergency $4,500 repair bill. Picture opening your bank statement at the end of a month like this one. The number staring back at you isn't the story. The story is what the number cost you to protect and what it earned you going forward. Let's look at the actual numbers. For Property 1, gross corporate revenue was $3,500. Fixed operational costs were $2,375, leaving a true net cash flow of positive $1,125. Property 3 achieved the exact same stable breakdown. However, Property 2 suffered the sub-foundation sewer failure. While it still generated $3,500 in corporate revenue, it incurred an emergency capital expense of $4,500 alongside the fixed costs. That resulted in a true net cash flow loss of negative $3,375 for that specific asset. Across the total portfolio, Month 1 generated $10,500 in gross revenue against $7,125 in fixed costs. Combined with the emergency repair, the final month 1 cash flow across the entire portfolio was a net outflow of negative $1,125. Look at that data for a second. Amateurs look at a negative month and quit. Operators realize that because we hedged our downside contractually, our gross corporate revenue remained completely safe, and our asset was structurally upgraded for the next 50 years. We absorbed a catastrophic infrastructure blow, and our business remained entirely standing. Real-world execution means understanding that failure and friction are just data, information you use to refine your systems. If I'd faced this exact same plumbing failure under the traditional Airbnb structure, my listing would have been permanently deleted, my reputation ruined, and my capital wiped out by forced refunds. The lesson here isn't that corporate housing is risk-free. It never was. The lesson is that a contract built with the right protections turns a 5-figure disaster into a manageable expense instead of a business-ending event. By building a rigorous business-to-business corporate housing structure, we protected our top-line gross revenue. We leveraged corporate insurance policies to fund occupant relocation. and we absorbed a massive real-world shockwave without threatening our company's survival. You go from an anxious retail host to a resilient institutional asset operator. If you're ready to stop building fragile cash streams and learn how to construct real estate systems that actually survive real-world chaos, make sure you're fully subscribed to this channel right now. Deal 1 survived its trial by fire and the infrastructure proved its resilience. But even with an emergency repair bill on the ledger, how does this corporate housing cash flow actually stack up against my historical multi-year performance data from Airbnb? In our very next episode, I'm running a direct side-by-side historical income comparison. We'll examine real gross revenue, real monthly expenses, management time, and a calculated stress and sanity score across the exact same properties over a prolonged timeline. The results are going to make a lot of you rethink everything you're doing right now with your portfolio. The full head-to-head income comparison is waiting for you inside episode 7 right now. The playlist is live. Stop standing still. Standing still is how your capital faces decay. Click the next video, take immediate action, and let's pull the levers on the numbers together.